We are live on Facebook. This is so amazing. Rise up, Brooks, because we have a very special guest. We have a treat today. We better be ready. But before we start, I want us to talk about our mornings, our morning routine. Our guest today will be talking about creating healthy space. And before we get the message from him, I want to encourage everybody out there. We need to be better than yesterday, one step at a time. So let's talk about our morning routine. How you wake up in the morning affects the day. So my question to everybody out there, how do you wake up in the morning? Do you press the snooze button? Did you know that if you press the snooze button, it means you're gonna snooze all day? I'm just kidding. But anyway, I just want, before I tell you more details about the snooze button, I wanna introduce you to somebody that I follow, somebody that I love his work. His name is Hal Elrod's. And he talks about owning your mornings, owning your morning. And how do we do that? The first thing we do, he talks about savers, SAVERS. So the first one is that to own our morning, we need, oh, I forgot, blew it up, let's start all over again. I want to introduce my friend that we're doing some social distancing together. Her name is Dolly.
Hey, Jennifer. Thanks for noticing me.
I forgot, with social distancing, we're so used to nobody being around that I've forgotten my friend is right here with me. So I apologize for that, but we can have fun as we open the world and we start connecting with our friends and giving hugs. I am excited to have my friend beside me. I forgot, so we'll blame the social distancing effect that is affecting me personally, that I forget that there's another human being beside me. Sorry about that, Dolly.
No problem, Jennifer.
And online we have our guest. Who is our guest today, Dolly?
So our guest is Jeremiah LaFollette, and he's going to join us. He's a professional counselor, and so we're going to be introducing him soon. But yes, Jeremy's going to join us, so we're so excited about that. We won't forget you, Jeremy.
Okay, let's get back on track again. So we were talking about the morning and how the way we wake up in the morning affects our day. So what is your morning routine? So I was trying to introduce you to our somebody that I listened to. He has created something called the Miracle Morning. His name is Hal Elrod's, and it talks about 5 things we need to do in the morning to own our morning. Because if you don't own your morning, your day is just gone. So here are the 5 things that we need to do. The S stands for silence. You wake up in the morning and just enjoy that silence. Number 2, affirmations. What talk do we tell ourselves? Are we telling ourselves it's going to be a great day, or are we, you can go the other way? Number 3 is E, exercise, which is so important, like going for a walk, stretching, doing some yoga, whatever, but as long as it's exercise. And the R stands for reading something. This is so interesting what he said. Whatever you need is already written. If you need to know something, it's already written. And reading a book is one way. And he recommends you read 10 pages per day. Wow. And then that adds up to 18 books. Is it a month or a year?
A year.
He talks about 10 pages per day, which is equals to 3,650 pages per year, which is equals to 18 books per year.
Wow.
So let's make it a goal to read only 10 pages a day, and we get to learn something. That's how you own your morning. And the last one is that the last S is subscribing. And that means writing.
Yes.
Just write something. So friends, rise up. If you're out there, we wanna just encourage you to own your morning by following the Savers by Hal Aarons. But we want to show you a quick video here. Darlene, do you want to light it up before I forget again?
Okay. I'll be right with you.
Awesome. Awesome. That's okay.
I'm messing up. Okay. Just about there.
Grab your coffee.
Here it is.
How you wake up in the morning affects your entire day. If you begin your morning with momentum, you can keep it up for the rest of the day. So Hall created a morning routine that he calls the Miracle Morning, which helps you start the day full of motivation and enthusiasm. But before we get to the routine, you need to wake up first. And we all know how hard that is in the morning. The old saying, you snooze, you lose, may have a much deeper meaning than any of us have realized. When you delay waking up until you absolutely have to, consider that what you're actually doing is resisting your life. So here are a few tips on how you can resist pressing the snooze button. Move alarm across the room. This forces body movement and motion creates energy, so it helps you wake up. However, you will still likely be feeling sleepy, so brush your teeth. The point is that you're doing a mindless activity for the first few minutes and simply giving your body time to wake up. And since you're in the bathroom already, splash some water on your face. It will wake you up even further. Drink a glass of water. After 6 to 8 hours without water, you'll be naturally dehydrated, and dehydration causes fatigue. The objective is to rehydrate your body and mind as fast as possible to replace the water you were deprived of during the hours you slept.
That is amazing. You know, that video is only 6 minutes, but I love the way it says, you snooze, you lose. So friends, you don't want to snooze and miss our guest today. So join the party, join us, and let's learn how to create healthy space. There you go, darling. Well done with the video.
Thanks, Jennifer. Sorry for the little technical problem. Yeah, so Jennifer was going to share her miracle morning, but she hasn't shared it with us yet. But I know my miracle morning has been has had a curveball thrown in it because I had the perfect miracle morning for getting up, and then since it's COVID, my whole morning has got a curveball. It's just like got messed up. So I am very interested in hearing Jeremiah talk about how we can recreate space and about, again, how do we struggle when everything's changed, when my work schedule's changed. My husband's home in the morning, so I have to adjust to that. And so just that morning routine is just one of those things in the recent time that we've had to adjust for. Did you want to share your miracle morning, or Jen was a perfect miracle morning?
I would love to share my miracle morning. I don't wake up every day at 5, but that's my goal. I wake up at 5. and I do my silence. Silence for me is prayer. I love to pray and connect in the morning, first thing in the morning. After I do my prayer, I drink my water. And instantly, I love to wear my workout clothes right after. And I have to tell you, my aim is always to work out, stretch, or take a walk. Some days I don't do it, but just the thought that I have my workout clothes on, like I'm wearing them, that makes me do the stretching or what I need to do. So silence my prayer, drink some water, work out, and then after that, I read for 30 minutes and then get ready for Darlene for morning connection.
I can attest to that because sometimes I come and she's still in her workout clothes. We start work at 7, so that's why my routine has been really messed up, that we started early. But yeah.
So the challenge is for everybody who's watching us today, what is your morning routine? Share with us, what is your morning routine? What is your miracle morning? And the most powerful miracle morning feedback that we get, we have a gift for you. So, and we'll tell you about the gift at the end.
Yeah.
So
think about sharing our story.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are going to start with our guest. So I would like to welcome Jeremiah. So Jeremiah has been my colleague, and he has graciously coached and mentored me on how to do assessments. Nobody wants to know about how to do assessments, but he was very helpful in helping me learn how to do assessments as a social worker. So we spent lots of hours on the phone talking. And so I'm so excited. When we started, I connected with him and we started about talking about just this creating space. And I know it's such a thing, it's a struggle in my life. So I was so excited that he agreed to come and share with us. So Jeremiah is a registered professional counselor, and he's been counseling for over 10 years. Jeremiah has been producing positive counseling results with individuals, couples, families by restoring individual wholeness and relationship. And in his spare time, Jeremy enjoys developing meaningful relationships with his 5 children, an amazing wife, and his best friend. 5 children, yes. And his best friend for over 20 years. So he is, yeah, it's amazing. He is going to talk to us about creating space. So welcome, Jeremiah.
Thank you so much there. Good to see you again, Darlene, and Jennifer. Good to get to know you as well. Yeah, I was just thinking 5 kids. Yeah, I need some space. So I'm going to have to actually listen to what I talk about today so I can, apply it to my own life, right? I always say, counselors, we got to practice what we preach, right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's just information and head knowledge. So definitely my hope is to begin to, talk about and share about some practical applications as well. Not just, that sounds good. How do I do it though? So hopefully we'll be able to create some space within that as well. I am so glad I did not hit the snooze more than 2 times today. Man, I'd have been fighting guilt right now and shame, but something in me was like, I got to get up. I got to get up. I can't. Now I know why. So it was funny. I was watching Darlene shot me the video going, hey, we're going to show this video. And I was watching and going, wow, I'm really, really glad now I didn't hit the snooze button more than twice.
Yeah, that was a very good video.
Yeah, no, it's very good. And it actually lines up with what we're going to be talking about today. And a lot of the stuff that you've been talking about with the miracle morning routine and stuff like that definitely fits part of it. I would say, if anything, before we get into the talking specific about creating space and then going into that, how do we implement that in our lives? Definitely, that's kind of been the mantra, I would say, for the last 3 months that I've been sharing and other individuals have been sharing. Of course, everyone kind of has, I call it the similar but different messages. And that is awesome because it allows everyone to relate what you may not relate to someone else, you relate to someone else. All right. And that's a good thing. Okay. So it's just a great opportunity to share. And within that came a concept that, I call basically creating space. And within that, this lines up beautifully, is creating routine. And out of creating routine, the whole goal of that is that we want to create normalcy within our life. And as everyone knows, whether it's pre-COVID, during COVID, or post-COVID, whatever happens in the next few months and beyond, there is a loss of normalcy that has happened within the world, all right, lifestyle of how we do things, how we say things, how we do things, lineups, all these kind of things. And so with that, we want to make sure that we create normalcy within our life, because then that allows us to be calmer, to be more relaxed, to be safe, to be not as worried, all right? And that helps us with our anxiety. It helps us with our thought life, so we're not going to bed at night spinning around a mile a minute going, oh, what am I going to do about tomorrow? What am I going to do tomorrow? No. Doesn't matter. When you are in normalcy or living a life of normalcy, doesn't mean that life isn't tough. Doesn't mean that we don't have issues of grief and loss, tragic situations that happen in our life, whether it's in the past or present, but we're then able to cope through it more effectively and hopefully healthily. So let's start off with creating space. What is creating space? Well, the way I like to define creating space is it's a healthy way of dealing with life's sudden changes, which of course can include things like crisis, maybe a certain thing called COVID. You might have heard of that by now, right? Grief, loss, trauma, anxiety, depression, all of these things. All right. And it's not a matter, I always like to say, it's not a matter of if, but when a drastic life-changing event will happen that will throw a curveball in our pre-planned personal agendas. When that happens, that's when we end up in this place going, what am I going to do? I then lose my normalcy. I then lose my routine. And then I now lose my space and everything gets jumbled and mixed together. That's kind of what happened with COVID, right? The viewpoint I like to use is that everything here, whether things were good, whether you had challenges, whatever was happening in life out here just got compressed, all right, within the last 3 months. And that created a pressure cooker effect that all of a sudden it starts to build up the pressure, That's the big trend, right? In the last year is the hot pot cooker and all that kind of stuff. And if we don't release that valve to allow that steam to come out, boom, we're just going to explode. And then it becomes like a volcano effect, And I was like the joke, but you ever try to put your hand over a volcano and try to hold it down? Good luck. You're going to get burnt. You're going to lose your hand. Okay. So we got to allow that pressure to be released. And one of the ways we do that and start off is creating space. Now, the one thing I want to mention, this is not about social distancing. All right. Social distancing, I guess you could say, is a form of space, but that's not the space we're going to be talking about. We're talking about creating healthy space. All right. And even within social distancing, one of the areas we're going to hit on a little bit too is the area of social isolation. Social distancing does not mean that we become socially isolate, because isolation is unhealthy. And so we got to figure out within this area, this new frontier that is called social distancing, how to not isolate ourselves. Okay, and we'll get more into that as we go on in this discussion. So
that's a great point. I just love that differentiation between isolation and distancing, because I feel like when I hear distancing, it feels like it's isolation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where we get confused sometimes. Oh, that means I just, I was walking, in the park, and traditionally, kind of from a cultural perspective, I was trained when you walk and go for a hike, people walk by, but you still look at them and you go, hey, you nod or you go, how's it going? I'll probably never, ever see that person again, but it's a social, cultural politeness, I would call it. But I have seen that completely disappear in the last couple months. It's almost like if I look, I'm going to give you something. And it's like, no. We got to break that. Again, it's that social distancing versus social isolation. I can still create and cause, and be, be honorable towards my fellow person that's around me. Be distant, but I don't have to be isolate towards them. So that means, even if I am in a mask, I can still, I was doing some physio the other day, and, of course we have to wear the mask and stuff like that. And even though I had the mask, the lady who was across the street, I looked at her across the room in the office. I looked at her and I saw the wrinkles of ice. She was smiling. I was smiling back.
Mhm.
And I just thought, that's cool. Even with the mask on, I didn't have to be isolate and afraid. I was able to be open and vulnerable, even with a mask on. A little more challenging, obviously, but those are the things we're going to have to start working towards and increasing our skills in those areas to still be and demonstrate humanity and compassion and care towards each other. So one might go, why do I need space? All right. Well, specifically when we're talking about areas, when we use terms like trauma or grief and loss, global pandemic, COVID, they're just fancy ways of saying trauma, in my opinion. All right. We need to develop space in order to support living a healthy daily routine, which supports us leading, again, the outcome to normalcy within our life. Without normalcy and routine, we lose our freedom of control, which we are wired to have. We're going to talk probably a little bit about control as we kind of go on with some of this stuff. So what is intentionally creating healthy space in my world of influence look like? Well, the way I like to use it, and the analogy I'm going to use, is think of a pie. Think of a nice, tasty apple pie. I was talking with a friend the other day, and he's like, no one makes a pie like my mom does. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to argue about your mom's pie. You don't mess with mama's apple pie, okay? If she makes a good pie, I'm not going to argue or complain. Like, no, you don't understand. My mom makes the best apple pie. I'm not saying that she doesn't. I get it. So out of that, I actually came up with this acronym for creating space today. And the acronym is actually PI, okay? P is called personal. I stands for intimate, and E stands for energizing. So personal, intimate, and energizing. So what we want to do is when we're creating space, all right, we're going to subdivide and cut that pie up into 3 different parts, okay? The first part is creating personal space within my own life, okay? The next part is we want to create intimate space, and that's with my partner, my family, my children, my relationships, my relatives. We want to create space for those. The third thing then we want to do is then we want to create energizing. This is where the energizing comes in. We want to create energizing space in our career, in our workplace, in our job, the things that we do, where we make money, where we spend the most time with that way. Okay. And that also includes, hey, if someone's out there going, well, I'm unemployed, how does that work? Well, it just means that your new job is the job of finding a job, or starting a business, or starting, that is where you have to create energizing space in that area. Okay. And within each of those, this is where to have one whole slice of pie, that's sometimes a little bit too much. And that's where we subdivide that into different areas of our life. So for example, when I talk about that intimate space, well, I've already started cutting into smaller pieces of the pie. My relationship with my partner, my spending time with my kids, spending time with family, friends, those kind of things, whether it is personal or whether it's online. All those kind of opportunities that are out there that we did not have 100 years ago. I'm going back in the way back in the days of the Spanish flu, where I can't even imagine what that would have been like, being so isolated. That's where at least we have this ability, the technology and medium, to be able to communicate in a way that allows us at least something that's better than nothing. Okay. But now, of course, now that we've entered into phase 2 and we're in, hopefully things will go into phase 3, we're able to then actually, you two are able to have a meeting like you're at, being beside each other, knowing each other's background and families, and okay, no one's got anything or caught anything, or it's over now. And so you're able to then do things in a healthier way. Okay. So that's where PI is: personal, intimate, and energizing. And out of that, this is then where we have to go, how do we create then space? What are we doing in between those spaces? Okay. And this is where we then go into that category of those things, like where you talked about routine, where we talked about mobility and all these different kind of things. And they are really kind of what I call the top 3 things that we want to do. And that's create routine and predictability. We next want to create mobility within our life. Out of that, we want to create connection. Okay. Now, there are like way more beyond that, but that's where we start entering into the other areas, really of what is called in my world trauma-informed care, okay, or trauma counseling, crisis counseling, the different terms that are out there. And that's where oftentimes, if the first three is, if a person's having a hard enough time doing that, then that is where I would highly recommend. Maybe it's the time to be able to consider and go, all right, I think it's maybe time to have that courage to make that phone call and find that therapist, find that coach, find that spiritual mentor that's in your life that you know and can trust, and begin to be more vulnerable with, and begin that conversation as to what that can look like. All right. To be able to go deeper into that, to help in the areas that maybe where that space has completely compressed into an unhealthy lifestyle, maybe unhealthy coping mechanisms. Of course, that's the typical drugs, alcohol. We, of course, it was kind of one of those, everyone, my field sort of was worried about it and kind of predicted it 3 months back. But unfortunately, we are now seeing that compression of bad events that is compressed to an unhealthy point to now even more sadder stories of domestic violence in areas like that that are happening within households and stuff like that are now starting to come out. People are starting to unravel because they haven't created that space. And so now issues of anxiety and depression are now starting to dramatically increase as we see this. And just because things have opened up, in some regards, you could say, just because the government has opened up the cooking pot and went, psh, okay, phase one, psh, okay, phase two, there's still pressure that's built up that still needs to be released. And if not released and dealt with healthily, that's where we then end up with all these negative consequences, emotional and mental health issues that we're starting to now see increase.
That's
yeah.
great. Can I interrupt?
Absolutely.
I think I can really relate to that pie. I love that pie, right? And sometimes it feels like our pie got smaller. But that pie, just those three personal spaces. And then you shared so much good about that. But I liked also how you said the 3 top things. So routine, mobility, and connection. Can you share a little bit more? Like it's easy to see the pie in the space, but how are you using routine with connection?
Absolutely. And what I like about this is it doesn't have to be this complex, okay, I have to do this in my personal space, I have to do this in my intimate space, and I have to do this in the workspace. You can incorporate all of these 3 basic routine, mobility, and connection into each of these areas of space. It's just some might look a little different, all right? Similar but different in each of the areas. So the number one thing that I always encourage people, wherever you're at, and it exactly leads into where the message that you guys started off with this today was routine. All right. What is that? It could be waking up, not hitting that snooze button, splashing the water, getting that day going, all those different kind of things. And so the one thing that I always encourage within that is to, if you haven't done this already, whether it's by computer, your phone, whether our smartphone, whether it's a actual handwritten personal calendar, whether it's writing a calendar on the wall, it's create a schedule. All right. Create a schedule in the things throughout your day, but it's not just writing a schedule of things throughout your day. We also want to put stuff that we look forward to in the day. All right. Because if you're like, okay, I get to look for a job. Oh, I get to go to my job that I secretly hate. Oh, that's a negative thing. And we don't want that. We want to create, especially when we talk about creating an energizing space within the workforce, within our career. We want to be able to have something that's positive. What am I looking forward to? Even if it is, I'm going to schedule in. I get to have my awesome sweet sandwich that I made, before, lunch that I get to eat. And I'm going to enjoy that. I had some awesome, tasty leftovers. I actually am looking forward to having a good solid day of work and then coming home with my family and spending time with my wife, spending time with my husband, spending time with my children, spending time with all that stuff, and spending time with my own stuff, just having a chance just to maybe dream a little. So we have to schedule in those things throughout the day of what we look forward to. And then that allows us to create a calendar of connections and activities that will allow us to be able to then have something to look forward to. But it also helps indirectly with some other areas, like having an internal sense of time. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but everyone I've talked to at some point in the last 3 months has gone, I don't even know what day it is anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what am I doing? So a calendar or a schedule is a great way to bring it back to at least, I know what day it is today. I know it's June. I know it's the 17th. I know it's 2020. Oh my gosh, we're almost done June. Are you kidding me? But at least I have a sense of time, which helps ground me. And out of that grounding leads to creating normalcy. Okay. Part of that too is that it allows us in this, you know, the big quote, I call it the over quote. There's many of them now, but it's in our uncertain times. All right. If I hear one more commercial that says uncertain times, my pressure cooker is going to explode. Stop it, you know. But with that, what is that about? Again, it's that control. So how can we find some ways to take control and responsibility to be able to control our environment that we're in that could be very uncomfortable with what we're dealing with right now? And if we add a schedule in our life, we can then add control. And within that routine and schedule, things like setting the alarm, actually getting up. Hey, if you got up at 6 in the morning or 8 in the morning before you go to work, keep getting up or get back into that routine. Make sure you're getting dressed. Yeah, but I'm unemployed. It doesn't matter. We got to keep routine to create normalcy. So I'm not saying you put your suit on, but I am saying don't just wear your underwear all day, wear your bathrobe or whatever. I'm saying actually dress up, and do something. And that totally leads into the next area, which is create mobility. All right. Kind of one of the jokes, I actually had a neat opportunity to talk with a student from the University of Alberta who did an interview on social isolation. That was actually kind of the big buzz pre-COVID, was there was a lot of talk about media regarding social isolation. Everyone's doing video games, doing Facebook. And here we are, ironically, we ended up having to do that in order to create a sense of connection within that stuff. But within that, we have to keep mobile and do stuff. And out of that interview, we kind of came up with a fun term. We realized, there's so much talk about, the iPhone, iMusic, whatever. Okay. But I realized it's kind of funny when you put the term mobility and put I before it, you end up with AI mobility, immobility. Okay. So we don't want to become immobile. Mobility, that is where we end up going snooze. What's the point? Unplug the phone. I'll just sit here. What do I do today? Those kind of situations. And we can end up with that in our relationships. We can end up with that at work. Oh, what do I do? I know I got stuff to do, but man, I am not motivated. And so we have to create mobility. We have to take action in what we're doing. I always like to say that one of the things that helps us with that literally is like sometimes you just have to stand up and take 2 steps forward. Okay. If it means just standing up, take 2 steps forward, well, what's the point in that, Jeremiah? No, the thing is that you did something. You took an action of mobility from immobility to mobility. All right. If it means going out and sitting on the porch, getting some fresh air, that is way better than just lying in bed. I don't know, I'll just lay here all day. It's going, the student, I don't know what to do for this assignment. Well, start writing the title, start writing a sentence. It was the best of times. Doesn't matter. Start something. And it's amazing what happens when you just start doing something. What if I take then another step and create a momentum in my life, create momentum in my day? That's what the video is all about. The second half of it, when you create routine, is creating that mobility. He goes right into that. Splashing water in my face, that's part of routine, but it also creates a momentum to get my day going. What if I read a little bit? What if I do a little bit? And if you feel overwhelmed going, how do I do all of this in my day? Don't worry about it. Pick one thing today that you can do, even if it's as simple as stand up and take 2 steps forward. That is better, something better than nothing. It's still a form of mobility that you can create a self-win for yourself within your life to do. It also helps, right, with things like what I call the fight or flight feelings, or freeze that we sometimes deal with, especially during uncertainty. Mobility helps gain momentum, which then allows us to gain control, which then leads to more normalcy in our life. Oh my gosh, I want more normalcy in my life. I don't know about you guys, I don't know about the viewers, but that's another step, another area of control that we can take back, which we're wired for. And so also it's the other area too, I always like to add, is it's using our body to do things. So that is making sure, cooking meals, building things, taking care of our relationships, taking care of our children, those kind of situations, all right? Which then, of course, leads into the third point, which is creating connection, all right? Creating connection is so important. Again, it's not about just distancing ourselves, social distancing. We got to be careful not to mix that up with social isolation, all right? Because isolation is not healthy. If we are wired for control, I always like to say we are also wired for connection. We are wired for relationships. And this has been especially tough in the last 3 months. And it's still going to continue to be tough. Just because we've opened up stuff doesn't mean we still have that, oh, what if that other person, and all these little fears that kind of enter into our area. And so that's where education is very important. Even things like personal protective gear, do you know how to put your gloves on and off properly rather than just pulling it? Oh my gosh, you've defeated the whole purpose. Put the proper amount of hand sanitation on. I was amazed when this whole thing started. No one had really ever used a lot, unless you're like in the health industry, hand sanitizer. But all of a sudden people are like, bleh, bleh, bleh. And I'm like, no, it's not that using hand sanitizer is wrong, but you use too much of it. You then dry your skin, and then now you become actually potentially more at risk because of open skin sore, to potentially catch stuff. And it's like, you're actually self-defeating what you're trying to actually accomplish. So it's like a reverse engineering concept that you end up doing. And we got to be careful of that. I had not to be rude, but I had a story of an individual who observed someone who was in the washroom. They came in the washroom with gloves on, went to the washroom, came out of the washroom with the same gloves on, washed their hands with the gloves on, and then left the washroom. There is much education still needed, okay? Not to shame, not to condemn the person if they're watching it going, that's me. No, it just means that there's some amazing videos that places like Alberta Health Services, and just even type in YouTube, how to put your gloves on and off properly. It's very important so that you're not recontaminating, or the potential to recontaminate yourself. This is another area where then you can add control in your life to know that, hey, what I'm doing in my life and teaching in my family's life allows safety, which then allows me to then create routine and predictability, which then allows normalcy. And in creating that space in each of those 3 areas within the pie, we then now have another area. And then, before I get too off topic, is creating that connection. The awesome part, of course, with technology in the last 3 months is those who chose to embrace, even, individuals who are maybe, I would say, in their 70s plus, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't even see my grandchildren. Well, suddenly people started to learn how to use things like FaceTime, Zoom, all these different things, the meetings that we're using. I even had the opportunity, to be able to support some of my clients. They're like, I don't know how to do this. Well, let me help you. Let's do it. And then we're able to then have this medium in counseling to be able to have it. So they're not limited. And so that's been a shift where, from a connection standpoint, and I'm just speaking as a counselor now, this has been something that has been great, to be able to do, whether it's by phone, whether it's by video. My preference, of course, is video, because I'm able to see you, you're able to see me, okay? We're able to get those facial inflections and stuff like that and know what's happening. Everyone loves the face-to-face. Well, I shouldn't say everyone, because those who deal with high issues of anxiety, this medium is actually proven to be very helpful, because if they didn't have the courage to see someone face-to-face, This creates a bit of a healthy barrier, but still connecting in a healthy way to be able to begin dealing with the more deeper rooted issues, especially if there's issues of trauma involved or whatever past circumstance or present circumstances are involved. But it allows connection. And now, of course, with the ongoing phases being lifted, you know, using wisdom and caution and calmness and everything that we're doing in life, washing hands, you know, wearing masks, this then allows us to then actually connect now more intimately with everyone. And then of course, within the workspace, we're still able to do, you know, we're still able to do that. Now within connection, I always like to add, you know, we're talking about more now in the social and in workplace, but we also got to go back to that beginning part where we're creating personal space. That's the P within PI. Creating that personal space is very important. And we have to learn how to self-connect with ourselves as well. Not in a selfish way, but in a way, and, you know, well, maybe more of a clinical term, all right, is we want to take that emotional center part of our brain and connect it to the cognitive, logical, you know, side of our brain and put the two together. And one of the best ways to do this, and this is the application part, is simply by learning how to breathe. And this is the part where everyone's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Yeah, it is that simple. Deep breath in, hold it. If there's a tension in my chest because I'm nervous, hold it, breathe out. Do it a couple times. And now I'm calm, caring, and relaxed. I've connected my emotion center to my logic center. And now I can be a calm, caring person. I have now created space in my own individual life. All right. And then out of that, of course, there's the multiple bazillion things you can do. Read a book, read a, you know, all those different, you know, self-education, all that kind of stuff. And whatever you decide, how big or small that slice of the pie is, you decide how that is. But bare minimum, you're creating that routine, you're creating that mobility, and creating that connection within myself, intimate, all right, space, within family, within my partner, within children, relationships, family, friends, and then creating an energizing space within my workplace, within my career, job, business, whatever that is, utilizing all of those. I mean, think about it. Think about breathing even just for a second. All right, I just talked about the individual side, but if I'm with my partner and we're having a little bit of a disagreement, I mean, one of the biggest polarized topics right now that I'm noticing beyond the obvious norms, all right, that are happening right now, but I'm talking about things like stats. Oh my gosh, I have never seen people argue about stats more. It creates a polarized thing. Well, it's all conspiracy. It's all, no, it's true. It's all true. And I'm like, I'm not here to say whether it's right or wrong. I'm just here to say it's created a lot of tension and conflict within some relationships. And I'm going, take a moment, step back and breathe, connect brain again, you know, don't fight, flight, or freeze. Connect that part so you become calm and caring again, and continue on then with your discussion and communication with each other in your connection.
That is so great. We use that too, right? Sometimes it's just like breathe, Jennifer, breathe.
Exactly. Hey, in the workplace,
Yeah.
maybe you got an interview, maybe you have that meeting. Am I going to get laid off or not? Whatever. Maybe it's just an ongoing business meeting. Maybe you have to do the presentation. Okay. Well, breathe, connect that part. So you're not going there, hey guys, how you doing? My, you know, how's it going? You know, same thing. I have to do that. I got to practice what I preach, right? You know, hey guys, my name's Jeremiah. I'm going to talk about breathing today and how to create. Whoa, who is this guy? Now, sometimes out of passion, absolutely, you get excited. But at the end of the day, it's like, hold on, relax, stay calm, stay cool, you know.
That's so good. And I loved your hand sanitizer. I remember when we worked together, I don't know if we had like courses on how to do hand sanitizer.
Oh, yes, we did actually.
And we
That's
actually,
right.
I think, failed once. It's like, anyways.
Oh, yeah.
But I love that about control too. So I love about calendars because I love my calendar. And that is one thing that I did I had a period in my life where I quit my full-time job and went back to school. And I remember like just making that calendar every morning. And I love what you said about putting fun things on. So for me, I have to schedule riding my horse in, right? Because that's the one of the things that really relaxes me. But if I know if you don't schedule it in, it's not going to happen. So I love that mobility. Moving, yes, that is, I loved your just stand up and take 2 steps, right? Because I know even in this time when I was, when I was at home and it first happened, right, I didn't even really want to get off the couch, right? But once, right, I just love that, just stand up, take 2 steps and just take that one connection.
And the biggest challenge with that, right, is that, and this is the word that everyone hates, but we all know and love, but we all hate, is intentionality.
Yes.
It takes intentional motion to do that. That's the hard part. We all know we're supposed to exercise. We all know we're supposed to eat properly. But this is knowledge compared to the application. And so if we can find those little things just to kind of help us, just a little more step, then that allows us to then move forward. And then we end up doing the things that we actually want to do. We're not just starting, we're now maintaining and finishing what we want to accomplish.
And then we're able to connect, right? That is so
absolutely
important. I love that.
Yeah. Probably the only thing that's kind of on my head and heart right now, I would say, is the other word that I like to also include. I know we've talked a lot about different things, right, within that concept of space. But the other word, I think, when we think of these things like routine, mobility, connection, and some of the other topics we've touched on, is a very important word that I've been sharing with my clientele specifically, and with your viewers too now, is the word flexibility. All right. See, part of the challenge, all right, is that, I use New Year's as an example for this. All right. We go, oh, I have a New Year's goal. I'm going to lose 1,000 pounds. I'm going to, whatever. Okay. But at the end of the day, that's where these industries make their billions of dollars, because they know no one's going to follow it. Because we have too rigid of routines. We set up goals. We set up these things. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm pumped. I like what Jeremiah said. I like this video we saw at the beginning. I'm going to do it. And the next day, snooze. All right. And so we have to remember to be flexible within that. Yes. Use your different goal setting strategies, your SMART, analogies, that's timely, and all those different analogies and stuff. Great. But be flexible within it. In your mobility, be flexible. If you're not at the energy level, or if you're dealing with that grief and loss, whatever that might be, hey, if you just lost your job yesterday, I don't expect you to do all these great and wonderful things in one day. But you can get up and take 2 steps forward and go on the couch and enjoy the nice day and get the fresh breath of air that you need and require. Go for a small walk or something like that. Create that momentum to be able to, even just getting dressed, to allow yourself to, your own moral dignity in your own life, to create that normalcy within our life. Okay. So it's very much, oftentimes we talk about cycles of addiction. Well, in that, and using the concept of flexibility, we want to be flexible and create our own cycle of health. We oftentimes talk about cycle of addiction, cycle of abuse, man, what about the cycle of healthy living? Create space, and in that, we're creating routine, create mobility, create connection, and just kind of keep going around and around. And eventually, like that wheel, we create then a healthy thing. I had another viewpoint that I really like is taking that circle, but let's put it this way, and it actually creates a spiral. So yeah, there are going to be days where we're going to go down, okay? And I'm going to shift the picture again. All right. It's like the stock market. All right. We want to create momentum, but there are going to be days where things go down. But eventually, if we keep doing our best to do little things here and there, like the stock market, yeah, we might have a crash. Oh, really bad day. But that low is still higher than when we first started. So that's that whole concept of 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. We got to keep picking ourselves up and keep working towards those things. And in that flexibility of allowing ourselves to go, I messed up today. All right, we got to keep going then. What are we going to do? What else do we maybe now need to add? Okay, that's a little more of an addictions talk in that aspect, but we can still borrow that and put it within what we're talking about today. With that, it allows us then to then create, again, that routine and momentum. And in connecting with other people, in accountability, in building relationships, we then allow ourselves to realize, hey, I'm a lot higher today than where I was down in my lowest low. And that's a good thing. That is the point, you know, because now we're in a place of, at least as best as I can with the negative circumstances around me, whether it's the past, present, COVID, whatever, now I've taken control of that, and I can now allow that to be able to flow normally within my life and work around it. So when people ask me, wow, have you really been affected? Well, yes and no. I mean, yeah, obviously everyone's been affected, but I know because of doing routine and doing mobile things and continually connecting, doing meetings and, you know, talking with people, building relationships with my family, I know that I haven't been as affected as some people have, if that makes sense. So yeah, and that's not to be like, oh, look at me. No. I'm just saying, I've had my days too where it's like, oh my gosh, you know, I was joked right at the beginning. You know, the extroverts, I'm going to take a guess, and part of this is based on what Darlene has said, Jennifer, that you're probably more of the extrovert. Darlene, you're more of the introvert. You know, as far as that, you know, and then of course in the middle they have the newer term called ambivert. Well, I'm going to take a wild guess, Jennifer, that after 2 weeks of self-isolation, you were going crazy. Okay. Meanwhile, Darlene was probably about, I don't know if I talked to you about this, but my guess is probably about a month is when you're like, this is kind of getting annoying. you know, and so it's like, yeah,
somebody.
yeah, it doesn't, it's like, yeah, this is bad, but I'm okay, you know. And so it's good to know that as well, as we know who we are. And then in that, we're then able to then recognize where maybe some of those areas we've talked about, I need to really hone and focus in order to bring some stabilization and normalcy in my life. Okay. And out of that, again, going back full circle means we then have to figure out, where do I need to create space? Where has it compressed and where I need to start expanding it out again in the different areas of my life. Okay. Otherwise you end up with a squished apple pie. And no one wants to eat a squished apple pie. I mean, it all tastes the same, but no one wants a squished apple pie. I want my nice, fluffy, you know, piece of pie that looks nice and well cut and all that kind of stuff, not crumbled up, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. That is so true. How did you guess that? Like, really? I'm one of those that I need, actually, just from what we've learned today, I need to take a deep breath because I get
really
so excited. I'm like, oh, I even forgot to introduce Darlene. I'm like, oh, we've got, you know, but you are so right. Who wants to eat a squished apple pie?
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say, Jeremiah, I took lots of notes, and our viewers here, and I've had lots of comments, people are tuning in, and they'll be watching this later, is that this was valuable for us.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Creating that space. When you brought the topic, I wasn't sure, but now it just makes so much sense. Like, I love the pie analogy, and then you said about personal, intimate, energize, and how do we create the mobility, connection, and routine. Beautiful. Like, I'll always have that picture. And
Awesome.
I also
Good.
like that you gave us the grace to say, if we don't follow, like, just stand up, make 2 steps. Those moving forward 2 steps or 1 step is in everything we do. Whether it's how we feel, how we're dealing with what's surrounding, the social distance, all that. So that was so impactful. I loved how you talked about flexibility, right? Then we don't beat ourselves and build that pressure again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, my pressure was building up, just having not to be able to hug my friend and all this social isolation. I was, yeah, my pressure's building up, and to be able to hear that we can release it so that we don't become a squished pie.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
so beautiful.
absolutely. And I mean, think about it. All right. If imagine if, okay, even if it's just, let's say 50 people, all right, watch this video. That's 50 people that have an opportunity to then begin creating normalcy or more normalcy within their life. And out of that, creating more space in their life, healthy space in the different areas of their life. That 50 people, guarantee you, they're connected to another person. So that's 100 people potentially that have the ability, you know. And so what happens is now you end up with a community, a city, a province, a nation, a world that can now end up in a position where they are now able to TV on the radio. My Surrey has acted up this morning. That's what I said. I said province, and it started playing a group called Province. But think about it. Out of that, we're then able to then not just individually, but it has the opportunity to go into a worldwide movement, if I can honestly be bold and say that, of where we are walking in calmness, in wisdom and caring towards each other. All right. Right. Rather than fear. All right. Rather than walking in, oh, what's going to happen? And is there going to be the second wave? You know, all those different things, you know. No, it doesn't matter whatever happens, because I am now in control and have taken responsibility of what I need to, and then supporting those around in my circle of influence. And out of that circle of influence, hopefully it just grows and expands from there. So just a little bit of vision casting I like to share. So
that's great. So if there's one last thing, because you've given us like lots of nuggets that we need to chew on, and they were beautiful. If there's one message of hope to our community and to our listeners, what would that be? One
message of hope. I would say that there is always hope. There is always hope. Because all it is, and again, it comes down to ourselves individually. Really, if it's the one takeaway that I would give today, based on what you're saying, it's begin with creating that individual space for your life. All right. Separate that from the mess ickiness that's happening in life right now, and separate that and create personal space. Begin with the P in the pie. Okay. Take that piece and start working on that. And then out of that, practically the first thing you want to do is create a schedule. All right. Or, they can also choose to begin the morning routine. That's a good way to start as well. They kind of work hand in hand, but those are good starts to begin with. Okay. And that might require standing up and taking 2 steps forward. Okay. But there is always hope. All right. It's not, we have to be very careful of the media that we watch, obviously. All right. Not here to slam or go against or for media and stuff. But I always say, think about it. If you are the kind of person who only watched news or listened to news or read about news about a half hour a day or an average, then that's what you need to do in part of your routine. If you're now spending 2-3 hours, you've broken routine. Yeah. Okay. And most of the stuff anyways that's out now is all redundant, and it's just continue. It's like, wow, what do we do? Now we've had some negative circumstances in the news the last couple of weeks and last few months. All of a sudden, it was interesting when you watch the media. Oh, that's our shift now, because we're kind of getting bored of this because there's nothing really new to talk about. And so it just, those are those kind of things that we have to be very cautious of. But we have the ability to control and that in our life in a healthy way, not in an unhealthy controlling way. Okay. So
that is so awesome, right? That we have hope and we can have that control, right? To start with us. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Jeremiah, thank you again for joining us and sharing so much information with us. Just very quickly, if somebody would want to go get a hold of you, I know you offer some great counseling services and just some great connection. How would they get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, basically, the practice that I'm out of is called New Life Counselling. That's with 2 L's. It's a Canadian thing, I found out. And with that, New Life Counselling, you can type in New Life Counselling Calgary, I guess, if you're in Brooks. And that's what I like too about things opportunities such as this, is that with the advent of technology, someone in Brooks might be going, man, I got to go see a counselor, whether it's myself or someone else or a colleague. Hey, go for it. Okay. This whole thing might be, yeah, it's time to do it. The beautiful thing is you don't have to worry about driving into Calgary or driving to Edmonton or Ontario. You can actually do online counseling now. What we're doing right now, this would, the only difference, although this is more of the interview kind of thing, but this is what we would do. This is what my clients see for those who are doing online counseling. All right. It's just kind of a nice, kind of hopefully warm interior environment. And I'm just talking, you're talking, I'm listening, and we start working through those areas of depression, anxiety, marital issues, relationship issues, that kind of stuff. Anyways, that's a little on the side there. But phone number wise, I can also, it's my work number. It can be texted or emailed. It's 403-690-8617. And then if someone wants to get a hold of me, whether it's through the website, they can also email me at info at newlifecounseling.life.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we will make sure we put that on our link.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And also just have so people can find you.
You bet.
Awesome. This has been an amazing day, and we are right at noon. We keep it to an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, but we had a very good conversation today. So for our viewers out there who are listening, tuning in on Zoom or live Facebook, please, we'll have Jeremiah's contact on our website, which is www.stronger-lifeconnections.com, and we'll have a replay there just in case you missed it. Until next Wednesday, thank you for tuning in, and let's keep the connection.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.